We're going to do some masterminding on Nick. Nick would like to buy a business.
Absolutely.
He's a freelancer, so he is very busy. He wants to buy a business, maybe with his brothers. And so we're going to talk about his pain points. He's currently feeling a bit stuck.
Yes.
And so let's talk about it. What is your number one pain point?
Number one pain point is our own access to funds that we thought that we were going to be able to procure ourselves, right? So now it completely changes the game. Not that we can't find money if we go searching for it, but our main way of getting it was by utilizing a HELOC from his house and land, but we weren't able to do that, got denied. So we have to completely shift gears a little bit.
Is it a no-no or is it a no with that particular lender? Is there a way to make that happen? Because accessing funds from a HELOC is actually very common as a use of to create a down payment for a business purchase.
Right. We're still looking for another lender to do it because it is a manufactured home, and then the land is worth more than the house, which seems to be a standard SOP no-no for a lot of lenders.
Yeah, the longer we do this, the more you find out about some of these more niche SOPs. You find out things all the time. So I didn't know that you couldn't get a HELOC if the land's worth more than the property, but that's pretty unusual, but you live on a lot of land, so it does make sense in your situation.
Right. So we're still hunting for a new lender on that. It does take time, but also because of the AT&T strike, Andy can't get approved for anything until his finances come back.
Right.
Too. So now we're regulated by that. So basically, we either have to 100, at least in my mind, I think we have to 100% seller finance a business, or find money somehow, release some equity, and go about it that way.
Let's talk about your plan for how you're going to do your business. So it's you, Nick, and your brother Andy.
Correct. And we got Chad.
Chad as well. And what was the split going to be in terms of the operations of the business when you select a business or you find a business? Who's going to run it?
Andy was the one that was really willing to get in there.
Okay.
Elbows deep.
So he would be company manager. And what was your role going to be? Just deal making? I mean, you don't have to have a role.
Right. It was really more so not having a role, because if the asset is going great, I don't want to really touch it. It's like, it's going great.
So ownership
Even
would be
Andy being a manager is not necessarily what I was wanting to do. I wanted to find a completely different manager, one who, depending on the industry that we get into, but they're probably far superior in knowledge of the industry. So
right.
I don't want to get in to a business that's doing great and then like a painting that's still wet and then try to make my own adjustments to a masterpiece. And I don't want to do that.
So ownership was going to be a third, a third, a third?
Yeah, we were going to be nice to each other and do that.
So a third, a third, a third, but Andy would draw a salary.
Yeah, so on top of that, Andy would be pulling a salary if he took on that.
And you guys would be owners, okay.
And then Chad was really interested in being on kind of the sales side. You know,
okay.
Like if we were doing floors or something, he'd be the guy him and Andy would be the guy that goes to all these different businesses and, sells them on a new floor.
So he might be on commission, maybe a small base, but mostly commission. Okay, and you'd be an owner, there's nothing wrong with that, that's fine. You'd probably be involved once a week to check how things are doing.
I think I would have my eye on the ball a little bit, but I mean, I also run my own business and I got 7-8 hours stuff to do all the time. So,
would you be willing, given that you currently can't, I know you're trying to solve the problem, but now you can't raise the down payment yourself at the moment through the equity that you've got, would you be open to bringing on an investor?
If we do that, I guess and it was big enough because already one third, we're cutting it tight on how much we even get at the end of the day too, plus our debt service of whatever. There's just, at some point we're gonna almost be, is it worth it?
Yeah, well that's the thing, because if it was just you and you couldn't get funding, then I would just say for ease, you just split it, bring on an investor, and then even if you end up with 50%, I mean 50% is better than 0% of nothing, Right. But like if you were to dilute this and bring on an investor, depends who the investor is. The investor might be willing to bring on the down payment for a step up, say 20% of the equity So you'd still have 80% split three ways here. There's no real rules in how the investor thing works because you have the searcher model, which is what a lot of MBAs, when people come out of an MBA and they want to do acquisition entrepreneurship, which is another name for what we do, they'll get a backer. So an investor will back them to find the business, but then the investor gets most of the equity. So like if you were doing a searcher model, I don't know, the investor would probably take at least 70%, and then you would have equity that would vest over time, you know, like 8%, 8%, 8%. So you maybe end up with a quarter. So I don't really like this model at all. On the other side of the spectrum, this is on the like aggressive side. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you may have a friend or family who would come in and give you a 10% down payment in exchange for 15% equity, something just like, so then you're left with 85. So you may get a friend or family that gives you a really small, will take a really small piece of equity and they're fine with it because they just want to support you and they're not really in it for the money, but they do want some return.
Yeah.
So like, I kind of operate here. So if I'm an investor, I'm nowhere near up here and I'm not interested in doing these ones down here either. So I don't think it works for you, but I'm interested in being an investor in deals where we could like split down the middle. But because there's three of you, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for you.
Right. I think at some point, maybe we just have to combine us as being one. Mm-hmm. And then from one 50-50 side, we split the
mm-hmm. I mean, so one of your things you were thinking about was going for an online business. Why were you thinking about online businesses?
I feel like the probability of getting 100% seller financing of just me mm-hmm. is higher.
Why do you think that?
It's kind of just a gut feeling after mm-hmm. all the things that I've read or seen and whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like I just feel like there's more sellers that would be willing to do that. Mm-hmm. There's some stop losses involved, and you know, I have to make a certain revenue, and then I pay you a certain amount after that instead of based off cash flow or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know, because algorithms change. Obviously, you can go from making $100,000 a month to $10,000 a month.
Right.
And the people that are selling those businesses do understand that. Mm-hmm. So that's why we have these stop losses. Like, dude, I'm not going to pay you $90K if I only made $10K because Amazon, we need to fix some things before I can even do that.
Yeah.
And they get that. So we then have to make adjustments until mm-hmm. we get back to our good number again. Uh-huh. But I feel like they'd be more willing to do 100% seller financing.
100% seller financing deals do come around. We actually looked at 2 in the inner circle this week. So, I mean, they do come around. That's kind of unusual to look at 2 in a week. Yeah. But I've done one myself, so I know they exist. To go out hunting for them is you're almost looking for the bottom of the barrel if you hunt for that. You almost want to find the business and then negotiate your way into 100% seller financing. Because, I mean, there is a lot of benefit for the seller. It's just, are you going to find the right seller who's willing to take a risk to do it? Because they do better financially because they do delay those payments over time.
Right.
But a lot of sellers are skeptical, and I understand. But if you have a really good working relationship and you're a good person and you actually pay over time, then the seller can do a lot better with a seller financing model.
They make a lot more money, save a lot on the taxes.
Save a lot on taxes,
It's just drawn out. And mm-hmm. that's where I actually feel like if they were trying to scam me, mm-hmm. right, sell me a bad business, it's like, well, they're the ones losing out because if this business doesn't last 4 years, then our 7, 8, 10-year plan is not going to work for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually seen quite a few flip side scenarios where the business is not very good, but the seller's like, oh, don't worry, I'll give you 100% seller financing, but they're offering, they want, a lot more than the business is worth.
Yeah, of which, yeah. So
you live in a small town.
Right.
Do you know, like, how much have you networked in your immediate area? Because it would be great to have the business close to where you live.
That is, if it's a physical business, yeah.
Yeah. But I know you're kind of on the online, train at the moment, but like most businesses will have a location somewhere, even if it's not, it doesn't need to be retail, but.
That's true. Haven't walked around, no. But also because I just don't feel comfortable not having a down payment for them. It's like walk in and be like, hey, yeah, and I'm not going to tell you until the end that I have nothing. And do you want to do 100% seller financing?
Right.
Get out of here, kid.
No, I get it. I mean, you're trying to get your HELOC sorted.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you are part of the inner circle, and in the inner circle, we do help each other out and do deals together. So it's not unreasonable for you to say you have an investing partner. It could be me. It could be swapped out for one of our other group members. So it is true to say I have an investor. Okay. Because if the deal is good, then the investor will invest.
That's true. There's more than enough people in the circle that if a good deal is a good deal, like it'll get popped.
There's plenty of people that want to be involved in who actually, because some people in our inner circle are more on they want to be the operator and they want to buy business but they don't have the funding, and then we have several people that have the capital that probably don't want to be the operator as well. So I mean, we've started to do deals together. It's great. I went to visit one this week that I'm a part of, really exciting, but we're going to do more of this. So I would say be confident. You have an investor, and it can be me to begin with as a placeholder, and if someone else wants it, then we can sub that person in. And I know that you want to sub us out completely and you want to then get your HELOC and fund it yourself. But I think you should have the confidence to go out there and start trying to find these deals.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. I wasn't ever wanting to be the manager of a business. It was always not passive. It's just, I don't want, the success of this business to be hinged on my performance for the next 5 years of this. It's like, I'm just a 28-year-old guy. I've never worked for Google. I don't have the experience under my belt for managing something that, is that big of a deal and a lot of people involved. Like, that's just 0 to 100. And I don't have the experience to, do that.
I think, so I worked for a large corporate, $50 billion company. And I had the benefit of coming in from that, and I don't think about, I haven't got X, Y, Z because I did work for a massive name. But now that I've actually worked in that environment, just because you worked in a large company doesn't mean you're better prepared for the world of small business. It really doesn't. In fact, for me, coming from such a large organization, I had to do a huge mind shift in order to run, manage, oversee small businesses, because some of the principles are the same, yes. But you're not at a disadvantage because you didn't work for a Google or another large corporation.
Okay, that makes you feel better.
Most of the people you're buying from, you're going to buy successful businesses, ones that have been around a decade plus. The owners, I don't think any of them will have worked for Google or any other kind of big blue chip organizations. More than likely, they've been lifelong entrepreneurs and they've done well. You are an entrepreneur now. In a way, you're better suited than many people coming out of a high-paid W-2.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to what Becky was saying, more risk-averse, relatively prime to try to do it. I think it's maybe the responsibility workload that is a lot bigger. Right now, I'm making videos for 2 guys.
Yeah.
And we just, we really try to do our best and whatnot. Right. But when you have 50 people involved and maybe thousands of customers and deliveries, and it's just like, that is bigger.
Look, you're in the inner circle. We'll help you. You'll have to have probably a different kind of structure, and you'll have to have a certain cadence of meetings that you have to have with certain team members on certain days to make sure the wheels don't fall off and things keep running. But that's all solvable. Okay. So that shouldn't put you off. Like, if you want to do this, you can. And I think you should go back out there and try and find a deal, knowing backstop you've got an investor, and then maybe we can solve your HELOC issue in the meantime so you have access to your own money. Okay. So what's your biggest fear right now as a potential business buyer?
My biggest fear as a potential, well, to be honest, it's only been like 20 seconds since I felt slightly unstuck or had a plan, so I don't have a thought of that just yet, because now I really just want to get boots on the ground, trying to talk to business owners and with this new and see what's my next wall. Because right now it's like, okay, sweet, it can still get done, and I have a plan. That's how I felt 5 months ago, and I ran into this wall. Didn't know how to scale it. Just had the conversation with you now. I have a better idea of what to do. I'm going to go do that, and I guess my biggest fear will come in the next couple of weeks or whatever when I implement this new plan.
Okay.
And then I'll have a better answer, because otherwise I don't have any fear right now.
Okay, that's great.
I have a plan, and I'm going to go execute that and see what happens. By involving me, my little brother, and Chad in one deal.
Yeah.
And it's us, and profit-wise, per individual, so much lower than if you were just to try to get one, or you get one investor. Cutting it into thirds, what numbers should I be looking for to make what we're doing worth it? I'm not trying to make an extra $1,000 a year with a bunch more of the responsibilities that we kind of just went over.
So the best thing to do, if you bought $1 million business, I think this is roughly what you're thinking, with 100K down. I think this is what you're looking at. Purchase price here, down payment here. I think it's good for Andy as company manager to draw a salary. I think Chad should be on as much commission as possible. So like he doesn't there's no burden of a salary, but he gets paid well for selling stuff. In terms of what's left over, I think for the first year you probably shouldn't take anything out of the business. I think you have to steward the business first, because that will then take care of you. If this does well and survives, then even if you do nothing else and you slowly grow the business, sensibly, in 5 years you will have a $1 million asset that's paid off, because you've made some extra payments on the SBA loan. And then, that's pretty good. But as you grow, then you'll have the excess cash flow where you probably will be able to take a management fee each, 1, 2, 3, in addition to this. But I would not focus on how much money you can get out straight away. Maybe if this money comes from the HELOC, maybe your first priority is to pay this off, just so then you're truly square. Because I believe the HELOC belongs to Andy.
Correct.
So you could, work that down to get that paid off, but then just focus on the business, because you want to play the long game. You've already said, you're in your 20s. If you play the long game and you get your business right, and this becomes worth $2 million, if this becomes worth $2 million and you haven't taken anything extra, then that is still worth it. You've made almost 700K each just from tending to the business first. Right. In terms of the valuation. And then once the business is worth more, it's going to be making more profit. Maybe you just decide to keep it for the next 20 years and you all just take a management fee out of it every month.
Okay.
So definitely play the long game. I wouldn't squabble over this, and I would try and focus on keeping the money in the business initially.
Okay. Not so instantaneous. Yeah.
No, this makes sense, this makes sense. Let's grow this thing. Let's maybe pay down on the HELOC, play the long game, and then eventually, promise me it'll be worth it.
Yeah, I guess if Chad does really well at his job, right, doubles, triples sales for some reason, this will go way up. We will make more money in the moment too, and then it kind of just gets
And maybe
invested.
You see Chad making so much money from his commissions that you're like, I don't want to make videos for you anymore.
Well, yeah, at least do 2 days a week. Go
right.
Follow Chad.